Oh, must be one of those days. It's gonna be one of those days where the internet's gonna act stupid and not work properly, and probably gonna drop the live stream every once in a while. So we're just getting started. Welcome. If you haven't been here before, make sure you leave your questions in the comments, and I'll be sure to answer them for you. Today, the topic of today, at least to start with, is going to be on hiring and recruiting people for your business. Um, I'll just tell you right at the start, I've broken the rule of going live, and I have a mint in my mouth, so I'm going to be annoying for a few minutes while I eat the rest of this mint. Starting to get drainage again, and just need to get some swallowing down. So I appreciate you guys hanging out with me, talking about hiring. I just my if you haven't listened to the podcast that dropped this morning, if you're a contractor or really any business owner or any kind of manager that hires, you really need to go listen to this podcast. Like, this is a really, really, really good podcast. Ryan England with Core Matters is a he's a person. He's a his business helps contractors create recruiting and retention programs for their companies, and does a phenomenal job at it. He drops tons of gold on this podcast. I even took notes for myself on this podcast. So if you guys aren't following the Hammer and Grind podcast, if you're a contractor, make sure you go and follow. I'm on all the podcasting platforms: iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all those. Just search for the Hammer and Grind podcast. There's also, um, I don't think I have links. That's a good question. I may have to go back and add the podcast links to my profile. But anyways, if you just go search for Hammer and Grind podcast, you'll find it, and search for episode number 109. 109. It's how to hire people that you won't want to fire with Ryan England. That's the name of it. YouTube, it should drop, I believe, Wednesday. It's going to drop on YouTube if you like to watch them. But yeah, we had a lot of good conversation about hiring, and I just wanted to share some of those takeaways with you, and then we'll open it up to some questions. But if you got any questions between now and then, just drop them in the comments, and I'll go back and answer them when we get to that point. The number one thing that Ryan talked about, and by the way, Ryan's going to be doing a free training for my audience. So if you guys are not in my free Facebook group yet, if you're a contractor and you're not in my free Facebook group, you're going to want to go in there and sign up, because Ryan's going to be doing this free training, and it's only going to be available to people in my free Facebook group, and the information will be dropped in there for that. So that is in my profile. If you're on TikTok, you can go right to my profile and just scroll down a little bit on the screen, and it'll say join the Contractor Profit Blueprint, which is the name of the Facebook group. I didn't see what you said, Jesse. I said, I still don't understand the markup thing. Can you explain? Oh, I'll probably explain that once a week for the rest of my life. So if you're just jumping in here, like I said earlier, I broke the cardinal rule of going live. I have a mint in my mouth, so bear with me as I dissolve that for over the next few minutes. But make sure you go to my free Facebook group to sign up for that training. It's going to be May 2nd at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time with Ryan. It's going to be really, really good. So if you listen to the podcast, you'll know it's going to be good. If you haven't listened to the podcast, go listen to the podcast. I promise it's going to be worth it. Can't put up the ads for advertising purposes. Yes, I can. What? So I just passed. Wait a minute. I missed something here. I just passed both my tests for contractor's license. I'm hearing different things like I can't put up ads for advertising purposes. Other are yes. I don't even know what you're talking about, Lone Wolf. Why wouldn't you be able to advertise your business? I don't know. What like, who says you can't do that? What state are you in? So, number one thing about hiring. Hiring is no different than marketing your business. It's no different whatsoever. It's just two different funnels, two different avenues. Okay. You have your advertising marketing funnel for getting clients, and then you have your advertising marketing funnel for hiring people. They look the same. They're almost identical. The only difference is who are you marketing to. And when you're marketing for clients, you need to know who you're going after. You need to know who your customer avatar is, right? You need to know this type of client, this type of location, this type of profession, this type of marriage structure, relationship structure, this, and this, how many kids, what zip code, how much money, what kind of cars, whatever. You figure out a profile of who your ideal customer is. Excuse me. It's no different than hiring. So you need to create a hiring profile for the people that you're looking to hire. Excuse me. Okay, I might I might make it. You create a hiring profile for the people that you want to hire. It's not who has a heartbeat and who has a car that they can, license and a car they can drive. No, this is who I want to hire. I'm looking for a person that has, these same core values that we have, that wants to do high end work. They're this age, maybe not. Maybe they have a certain physical characteristic. Maybe they have certain hobbies. Maybe all of you on your team like to go fishing. Well, if you hire someone who doesn't like to go fishing, that could be a little awkward. Maybe you like to take your team out on weekend excursions once a year to go fishing, and if that person absolutely hates fishing, they're not going to fit in that subculture that you're creating in your business. So you need to create a hiring profile of the ideal employee that you want. The next thing that he talked about on the podcast is man, my mind just went blank. I saw your comment, Lone Wolf, and I just totally made my mind go blank. Talk about the hiring profile. Oh, core values. Whatever your core values are for your business, it doesn't matter. Maybe you're a religious person and you believe in God, and that's what your core values are. Maybe you're not. Maybe you believe in everyone is treated fairly. Maybe you believe in integrity. Maybe you believe in discipline. Maybe you believe in, respect. Whatever your core values are for your business, the person that you're hiring has to agree with your core values. They don't have to embrace it and live and die by those, but they have to at least agree with them. So if one of your core values is to be a Christian, and you hire someone who is not only are they not a Christian, but they're an atheist and they hate Christians, don't you think that's going to cause animosity in your business because those values don't align with each other? So you need to figure out what your core values are, and then hire people that agree with your core values. And we talked about the book, which is a favorite of mine, which is uh, The Ideal Team Player. If you guys haven't read the book, The Ideal Team Player, it is a phenomenal book. It's told as a kind of like a parable. So it's like a story. The first half is like a story about a company, and then the second half of the book, he breaks it down. It's very well written. But in that book, he talked about the core values were humble, hungry, and smart. The people they were looking for needed to be humble. They needed to be have a EQ, high EQ, and emotional intelligence, and they needed to be hungry, humble, and smart. They needed to be hungry, meaning they wanted to work, right? Not just look for an easy job. And those three things were the core values of the company. And so he went out and he found people that believed in those core values. So you need to do the same thing. You got to, if you don't have core values for your business, you need to figure out what those are real quick and make sure you document that and tell your team what it is. And you need to tell them on a regular basis, like, this is what we believe in. And then you get people to join your team because they believe in your core values. There's people out there that, they believe in working hard. They believe in getting, maybe they believe in your faith and whatever else you believe in. Like those three things, there's people out there that fit that, and not everybody will. So if you don't know what it is and you're out there just hiring people, you're going to cause conflict amongst your team, because if your whole team is centered around these core values, then you're all working for the same mission. And whether you like him or not, Dave Ramsey talked one time about he was hiring a new executive assistant, and he was interviewing this woman, and he was like, everything she said was amazing. Like on paper, every question she got was perfect, like the perfect employee that you could possibly want. And this was back in several years ago. I think it might have been whenever Trump was running for president, or it might have even been before that. I don't remember, but it was pretty far back. And he asked her basically like what her political affiliation was. And I don't remember how he asked it, but she's like, "Oh, I can't stand, Republicans. I'm a staunch Democrat." And he's a conservative Republican. And he said, "I didn't hire her." 99% of the interview was off the charts, except that one thing. And he says because he has conservative views and he hires people that have conservative views, if she were to come in, it's going to cause conflicts, especially that she was going to be his executive assistant, like working with him every day, day in, day out. He goes and talks to, does dinners and events and all these different things for mostly conservative type people, that there was going to be a constant conflict of interest in political affiliation. So he didn't hire her. And that's the same thing that you should be doing in your business. And I'll say this, which is very controversial. This idea about, anti-discrimination laws and how they're in place. I don't care who you are. When you hire someone, you absolutely are discriminating against them. And I'm not talking about their race or their, ethnicity. I'm talking about, are they the right person for the job? Is that the type of person that you want to work for you? Right? Yeah, if you discriminate somebody solely because of the color of their skin, then that could be discrimination. But when you're hiring someone, you are absolutely discriminating against everyone else that you don't hire. That's just the reality of what hiring is. You're hiring people that you like, that you think are going to do the job the best. And if you don't discriminate like that, then what you end up doing is hiring someone who won't match the profile of your culture, and they will come in and destroy your culture. And then all of a sudden, you'll start having one person quit, and then another person quit, and then another person quit, and you'll be like, "What's going on?" They won't tell you that they're quitting because you hired so and so, who, when you're around, they don't say anything, but when you're gone, they're constantly making comments about things that everyone on that team has core beliefs in. Right? If you go back to you're a Christian based company and you hire other people that have the same beliefs, and you hire someone who's not, and he's out there on the job site, talking about how, Christians are hypocrites and all these things, and I would never go to church. And, your website says we're a Christian based company, and you're out there working, and the client hired you because you're a Christian based company and they believe in that core value, which by the way, your clients hire you for your core values as well. And you got this one guy out there who's basically, bad mouthing Christians. You don't think that looks bad on you? You don't think it's going to drive other people nuts? It absolutely will. And I'm just using that as an example. I don't care what your values are. That's just an easy one to talk about. You have to know what your core values are, and you have to hire for your core values. Let me go back, take a pause here, go back to some questions. You're in California. I don't know why you wouldn't be able to advertise. If you have a license and you have a business, you're an official business, you should be able to advertise all day long. Well, if you don't, I mean, if you pass the test, why wouldn't you have a license? Like you haven't got it in the mail yet? I don't know anything about California, man, so I can't really help you with that. But if they say you got to have a license, then I'm going to assume you got to have a license. Appreciate you, Mitch, in Detroit. Thank you. Philip says, I love the core values section of the book Traction by Gino Wickman. I'm pretty sure I read that book, but I don't remember that part. Hello, Matt Thompson. Good to see you. Yes, you need a license to advertise. Okay, so somebody answered for you. If you're in California, you need a license. So if you took the test and passed, but you don't have your license yet, you need to wait until you get your license. So I appreciate George DeLeon, however you say that, for answering that. So, all right, what else did we talk about on the podcast? As far as hiring and recruiting goes, he says the number one thing that he says a lot of people think they have a recruiting problem. They actually have a retention problem. If you go back and look and you have your accountants see how many people were on payroll and how many W-2s you sent out, it's probably going to be a lot higher, right? So a lot of times we don't understand what's important to the people that we're hiring, and then creating a package or a environment that's going to be beneficial to them. Yeah, he's saying you got to include your license number and all. That's a California thing. I mean, anybody in here from California, like, just go ahead and start packing up now and move out of that state. Like that's the best advice I could possibly give you. California is the freaking worst at everything. And I lived there for 2 years. I would not live in California just because of traffic. Like that alone is a reason for me not to live there, on top of the 5,000 other reasons not to live there. But I wouldn't live in California just simply because of traffic. Highly recommend that book. It's my number 2 business book. Philip likes The Traction by Gino Wickman. George or Jorge, I don't know. He says packing as we speak. All right. So what did we talk about? We've talked about core values. I talked about creating a hiring profile. We talked about creating a understanding what's important to your clients. I'm not your clients, and your potential hires, as far as to them. He talks about there about creating a referral retention program, or I'm sorry, a referral program, an employee referral program, and why most of them don't work. He said, if you think about most employee referral programs, how are they set up? They're set up to where it's like, if you refer someone that we hire and they stick around for 90 days, then we give you a bonus. We give you $500 or whatever. But he says that doesn't incentivize anybody. Like the incentive, how do you say that? The incentive, there we go. The incentive for them is to find somebody that they want to co-work with, like a coworker or a friend of theirs or whatever. But if it's like, hey, it's performance based, yeah, I'm going to give you it, but it's performance based, then most people are like, well, why would I go out and tell somebody that only if they last for 90 days? What if you're a terrible boss? Or what if you that person's not going to like you? Like, I'm going to do all this effort and energy and then not get anything out of it. Rich says, my old business partner says the U.S. is behind on code from them in Canada by 30, 50 years. Code as far as what? Building codes? Like how to actually build stuff? I don't know. I don't have any thoughts on the U.S. being behind code. I mean, whatever building code they use is usually like 5 years behind. So it's like they use the IRC, 2017. Like it's always behind no matter what. So I don't have any thoughts really on the building codes. Where was I at? I got to quit answering the questions that come up because I always forget where I'm at. Somebody tell me what I was talking about. Talking about hiring, but I don't remember what I was talking about. Retention. He says that with the retention, thank you both of you, Philip and own oh no Soto one. Appreciate it. With the retention program is you have to think about it from their perspective, like how this is going to work. He gave the example of, if I call my best friend and I say, hey, my boss is looking for people, do you want to come and work over here, right? Work with us. People don't want to change jobs. Most of us hate change across the board. Most of us hate change. Some of us have learned to embrace change and understand the value of change. But most of us do not want to quit a job and start another job. There's anxiety behind that. Am I going to fit in? I got to create a new daily routine. Performance anxiety over here, even though I'm getting paid, peanuts and they treat me like crap, at least I know where I'm at and what I need to do. There's certainty here. Yes, the boss is a dickhead and I don't get paid the greatest, but I got good benefits. I always get paid. I'm never laid off. There's lots of reasons why I should stay here. You have to look for them. It's a major life change. And so you have to look at it and understand you have to look at it and understand that they're making a major change. And for a friend to say, hey, uproot your entire life and come over here and work, it has to be worth it. Like there has to be a benefit to them. And so if I know that my friend who works for this other guy, he gets treated like crap over there. He doesn't get paid very well, but money is not everything. He's got good health benefits, but he doesn't get any PTO time, or they don't pay vacation days, or whatever it might be. Then me as an employer, finding out like what's important, can say, hey, if for your friend, if you come over here and work, then we can give you paid vacation days, or we can give you paid holidays that you weren't getting, and we'll pay you more. We're going to offer you all these benefits that you're not currently getting. But you have to understand what those are. Like if you don't know what the benefits or what the other potential person is getting, then me as an employee, I'm not going to recommend my boss if he's not going to benefit from leaving his current position and coming and working where I'm at. So it's really not about incentivizing your employees with money. It's about incentivizing them to make it almost like a no-brainer to have your friend come and work here, right? I didn't do a very good job of explaining. Ryan does a much better job. That's why you should go listen to the podcast. Philip says how to give referral bonuses. Yeah, for employees, for employee referrals. Yeah, he talks about it in the podcast. Caden Cutlilo. I don't remember you. Sorry. How should I remember you? I mean, we may have talked before, but I don't remember what I'm supposed to remember. So, those are just a few things that we talked about on the podcast. If you guys has anybody listened to the podcast on TikTok or on Facebook? Have you listened to the podcast? Drop a 1 in the comments if you listen to the podcast. I'm just curious. Yeah, I know you now. Yeah, always would rather watch a tree grow. Yeah, thank you for that reminder. Jesus Yeah. What was your favorite thing about on that podcast? Just drop what your favorite or your biggest takeaway. Like what was the biggest takeaway on that podcast? De Leon hardwood floors. Am I saying that right? De Leon? De Leon? I don't know how to say that. What was your favorite takeaway from the podcast? De Leon? If you guys are watching on Facebook, drop it in the comments if you got any questions. I'm going to open it up to any questions you guys have right now. Doesn't have to necessarily be about hiring. One of the things I can tell you while I'm waiting that worked well for me in terms of the name of the podcast, it's the Hammer and Grind Podcast. It's what my channel title is. I love all your content. Listen to the podcast periodically. Appreciate it. One the biggest thing that helped me with hiring is you have to make your business attractable. This is kind of what I was. It piggybacks on what I was just saying. If you're not an attractable business from the outside, like if you're having a hard time getting clients through your marketing and your branding, you're going to have a hard time getting hires through your marketing and your branding. So this all ties together. Like if you want to charge premium prices, you have to be a premium contractor. And that applies across the board, including attention for your people that are, potential new hires. I had one guy that applied for a lead. He applied for a position and I didn't hire him the first time. I didn't even call him the first time because there were some other more qualified people and he didn't have that much experience. Well, like a year later, might have been 8 months later, I was hiring again and he applied again. And I recognized the name and I was like, oh, this is the second time applying. But over that 8 months or whatever, he got more experience because of where he was working. And the second time I interviewed him and I ended up hiring him because and I asked him, I said, what made you want to work here? And he said, well, I just like what you do. I've been following you for a while. And, everything that you guys, as far as your branding and marketing goes, is like the kind of work I want to do. You do high quality work, you work for good clients, and that's who I want to work for. So that part of it is what attracted him enough to apply twice, and then finally get the job. So like as an employer, that's the kind of person I want to see. And he ended up being a good employee. And because of him, I ended up hiring his brother, who was a good employee. And then I ended up hiring another person later on from them. So when you do hire good and you hire good employees, hire good people, they they're friends with and networks with other good people. It's the same with clients. When you find good clients, they will refer other good clients. So this idea that you're going to hire someone who is that you're going to like micromanage to become a better person, it doesn't happen. One of the things I always hired for was character. I always hired for character first. If they did not pass the character test, they didn't get hired. I don't give a crap how much experience they have. Always hired for character, trained for skill. Like that's my mantra. Hire for character, train for skill. You don't hire for skill and then think that, oh, I'm gonna mold this 52-year-old guy into being a better person. no, no, you're not. It's never gonna happen. People are set in their ways. So you got to hire for character, train for skill. Yeah, yeah, Philip. It's the same thing. It's literally the exact same thing. It's the exact same process. Even your advertising is the same. It's just in one you're hiring clients or trying to find clients. The other you're trying to find employees. The other thing that Ryan did talk about as far as like marketing or advertising your business, he said if I'm a real been a roofer for 2 years and I know how to do roofing, like I don't need you to explain to me what I got to do in my job. Like I already know I got to lift heavy things. I already know that I got to do certain aspects of a job. So when your job postings, you shouldn't be putting in there, must be able to lift heavy things, right? Because if you're hiring like a skilled person, they already know all that stuff. What you got to be advertising is what's the benefit of you working here? Why would you want to work for us? Overall, there are a lot of mindset prep about talking to customers. Do you have a rule of thumb for down payments or deposits before job starts? Yeah, Matt. It's my rule is it depends on what kind of work you do. It depends on the dollar amount. There's lots of factors here. But what I did was I did 40, 30, 20, 10. 40% down, 30% after the first milestone, 20% after the second milestone, 10% when the job's complete. You should get enough of a deposit that you can pay for all of your materials that you need to order up front, and any expenses that you may incur from the time you sell the job until you get to the first milestone. So maybe your first milestone, you may already have 2 or 3 other subcontract trades in there. Maybe the plumber and electrician already comes in and does their rough in, but you're not collecting a milestone until after the drywall is hung or whatever, just using as an example. Then you need to collect enough money to pay for all the materials that you're going to order, to pay for your plumbing rough in, to pay for your electrical rough in, and any overhead you might incur, plans, permits, inspections, overhead costs, administrative costs, project management costs. All of that should be collected ahead of the job. And this is for anybody on here. When you collect money, when you bid out jobs and you have a payment schedule, you should always, if possible, sometimes it's not possible, but as much as possible as you possibly can do it, collect ahead of your expenses. So you should always have more money coming in than you have expenses going out on a job that are job related expenses. There should never be a time where I collect $10,000 down to start a job, but I'm going to pay $20,000 out in material costs and subs and everything else before I collect the next payment. It should always be ahead. And if you do that, you'll never have cash flow problems. It will instantly cure your cash flow problems as long as you're collecting more money than you're paying out. See, a lot of people think that, like, and even customers, I even have contractors argue this with me. If you can't fund an entire project from start to finish without collecting a penny, then you don't know how to run a business. And that's the freaking dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Even if I could do that, why would I want to do that? I assume all of the risk. Well, if you do a good job and you're a stand-up contractor, then people will pay you. I've been screwed by the least likely person you would ever think of. I forgot to find something to plug my phone in. Hold on a second. TikTok. All right. My phone was dying. I didn't have it charged, so unfortunately, we're going to have a split screen kind of situation here. So, unless I can trying to raise this up here because it's kind of like my cameras are at 2 different angles here. It's kind of screwing me all up. It's a little bit better. Yeah, you got to be ahead of your payments. Like, oh, I know what I was saying. I had a recommendation. It was a friend of mine who's a realtor, and she's like, hey, and she's also a Make a Wish. She's the president of the local Make a Wish chapter, and Make a Wish is one of my favorite charities. And I've done stuff for her, like built some things out for some of her wishes. We did a Steeler basement. I think it was the Steelers. Might have been the Colts. I think it was the Steelers though. We went and built out a basement. Like he wanted like a Steelers themed basement for gaming and watching football and stuff. And we went in there and I built some stuff out for him. And anyways, long story short, she's like, hey, I got a client she's one of my wish kids. She has a wish kid. it's not a wish, but they're really struggling to get a bathroom done. I told them you'd be able to help them. And I said, yeah. I mean, I didn't like go there as a freebie. This was a paid gig, but I did discount it a little bit simply because of the situation. Like they were financially strapped, just trying to help them out. And I never got paid for that job. It's the worst job that I ever did, like as far as dollar amount. And it was only like $2,500. It wasn't like a big job, but it was like $2,800. Never got paid for it. Right. And so it's not about like always the clientele. Sometimes there's extenuating situations, circumstances that happen to where you don't get paid. And so had I collected a deposit on a job like that, maybe it was only, if this was a $2,800 job, maybe I only collected $1,400. I would only be out $1,400 on the back end as opposed to the full amount. Right. So you should always charge ahead and never be the bank for your customer. And especially if you're doing multiple projects at once, if you have 3 projects going at once and maybe you have subs or maybe you have 3 crews and you're, trying to fund 3 different projects at different stages, like you can easily screw yourself. Like you can put yourself out of business if, one client decides not to pay a $10,000 bill and you got $30,000-$40,000 going out and you're waiting on 3 different clients to pay you at different times to pay those bills. It's just not it's the worst way you could potentially run a business. Philip says, do you do retainage? Do you leave a small amount at the end? I think I missed it. I always no more than 10%. The final invoice, if you can get it, should never be more than 10%. And the reason why is because that's pure profit. So at the end of the job, if a customer is being crazy and saying, hey, I'm not going to pay you until you come back and fix this and do this, and they want you to do $3,000 worth of additional work so that you can collect $5,000 of of final payments, like $3,000 of additional work that you never agreed to, I could just simply say, like, you know what? Why don't you just keep that 5,000? I'm out. Like I have that ability. I'm not saying it's not going to hurt or suck, but I have the ability to walk away from that job at the end and say, you're being absolutely crazy. I'm not doing that stuff. Versus you get a 40% at the end and they're holding on to $15,000 and they're holding it ransom to try and get an extra $3,000 of work out of you. Now you're in a bad spot, right? Because for some contractors, $15,000 might put them out of business. So like that's why you don't put yourself in that situation. You always collect ahead. And if people are like, well, I'm not paying that much. Okay. I totally get it. Thank you. Next. Like that's kind of how you need to be with that. Now, I'm not saying that you can't make exceptions. I'm not saying you can't work with people. There's always exceptions to things, but as a general rule, that's how it goes. If it one caveat I'll tell you on that is if you're like booking 6 months out, then I won't collect 40% right then. I would collect a 10% deposit to put them on the schedule. And then depending on my lead times, like maybe I have a 2-month lead time on average for materials. When I get 2 months out from the project, then I'm going to go and collect the other 30%. But I'm still going to get my 40% down always. Unless they can make if the client's like, I don't feel comfortable paying that much money. I paid someone 40% before. I got ripped off. What assurances do I have? Blah, 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 blah. Would I ever like consider doing like a 25% down, and then add another milestone? Yeah, I would consider it if I think they're going to be a good client and they just had a bad experience. Like I'm not just going in there super hard nosed and saying, no, this is the only way we do it. And if you don't like it, F you. Like that's not my position. It's just my default is 40% down and 10% on the end. And I don't care how you do the rest. Like it doesn't matter if you have 5 milestones, if you do weekly payments, I don't care about that. But as much as you can get down 30, 40, 50% to cover all of your expenses, 10% on the end, you do that, you'll be good. Hope that helps, Matt. Let's see what else. That's what I'm learning to do now. Amen. I only hire positive people. Yep. Yes, sir. Always mark up material. Yep. Good, Matt. Just sent out 2 estimates where they double labor. Hope it works. Well, that statement kind of lets me to believe that it's not going to work. It could be, but guys, don't be in the estimate sending business. Like sell these people before you send out the estimate. The estimate is just the final detail. Like when you do sales, the job's already sold before you even send them the estimate. Like that's what real sales is like. They're ready, they want to hire you before you even send them the paperwork. Right? The paperwork is just a formality. If you're in a situation where you go out and look at a job and then you're going to send them an estimate and let them know what it's going to cost on the back end and then you're waiting for their approval, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it completely wrong. Now I'm not picking on you because maybe you just started listening or whatever. Pogue 111, but I'm just telling you, like you sell the job before you send the estimate. Always, the estimate's just a detail. Who is that? Tywin Lannister. I can't. Some of these names are so hard to read. You are right. I'm always down 50 grand. My wife always chewing my ass out. Yeah, change that, man. Like collect more. Again, I understand. Like if you're doing a bank, if you're building a house and the bank, they have their way of doing it, and you got to play that game. If you're doing commercial, they only put you, 10% down or whatever. You got to, if you're in certain markets or doing certain types of work, there's certain restrictions. You got to play that game if you want to play in that arena. That's just the rules. But if you're the one who's controlling the payment plans, then absolutely you should collect more money up front to cover all your expenses so you're always ahead. Uh, Nick says, at least I know I'm not the only one dealing with these issues. Dude, if everybody is, otherwise I wouldn't even need to be here. There'd be no need for me to be on here. I usually do materials and 10% rest on completion, but we're talking small jobs. If it's, I don't know what small job to you. For me, if it was a job under $1,000, I wouldn't even collect anything up front because usually that was like a time and material or a small half day, bid job. I don't go through the hassle of collecting money up front unless I had to order a special order. Anything special order always has a deposit. I don't care if it's $20. If I had a special order something that's $20, I'm getting a deposit because I can't return those things. So I always get custom, special order custom stuff that I can't return is always collected no matter the price. And that's the exception. Like even if it's like, oh, we can only pay you 10% down, but we want you to go out and fund a $2,000 special order item. I'm like, no, like if you're not going to give me $2,000, I'm not doing the job. Like never, ever, ever pay for anything special order with your own money ever. Like that's a non-negotiable. But anything, if it was like under $1,000, I usually wouldn't collect money. I just say, okay. And then I just bill them at the end. In 11 years of doing it for 2,500 jobs, I think I had less than 10 people total that didn't pay me. And we're talking like less than $5,000 of total money lost on 2,500 jobs. So the main thing, the main skill about that is really knowing how to read people, and two, like not putting up with crap. Right? I don't mean be intimidating, but I'm 6'5". You guys, I'm always sitting down usually. You can't. I'm 6'5", 240 pounds. I'm a big dude, right? Physically, I'm intimidating. Former Marine. Not that that means anything, but for some people, that's even intimidating. I'm very direct in my conversation. So across the board, like for most people, this isn't the kind of guy that I want to try and screw over, in a lawsuit or not pay. And because I just don't tolerate that. but I also deliver extremely high value and experiences for my customers. And I don't ever, never had issues with people not wanting to pay unless they were just scammer. Like I remember one, it was like $300. They were moving. They were selling their house. They needed to fix a few things on an inspection report, and then they were moving, and they were moving out of state, right? And they didn't pay like $300. That was on me. Like that was my fault for taking a job like that. But the biggest one was the one that was the Make-A-Wish kid family that was like $2,800, and that was the biggest that I ever got taken for. What do you think about subbing out everything? Is it better than having employees? It totally depends on your business plan. Some people will tell you subs are absolute nightmare. Some will tell you employees are absolute nightmare. I've done both. I had a hybrid model. We had employees and subcontract, and it just depends on what you're doing. You have more control and less cost associated with hiring employees. I say less cost because you can produce the job cheaper than what it costs to hire a sub in most cases. But you can do more jobs, more volume with subs if you have multiple crews, and now you're just more of a manager of the like a project manager than you are a manager of people. So there's pros and cons to both of those. It just really depends on what you're trying to do. If you forced me to pick one, I would probably lean more towards a subcontractor model. Again, depending on what you're doing. Like I said, I did both, and it's just how it is. Even for HVAC, what do you mean? Yeah, sell the job before the estimate. This is a good one, and then I got to hop off here in a little bit, guys. But so I haven't done a lot of training on the sales process, but you need to when you do sales. This is how I teach sales. We pre-qualify people over the phone. Okay, someone calls you, hey, I want to have a project done. Let's just say you're a landscaper. Hey, I'd like to have a patio, you know, paver patio or whatever in my backyard. Okay, cool. We go through a process over the phone as to where they send us pictures first of what they want. Maybe they have an inspiration photo of what, like a picture of their backyard now, and then maybe some inspiration photos. And then we hop on a phone call and we simply ask them questions to find out what's important to them. What are they trying to accomplish? And then we essentially give them a ballpark price over the phone, not an exact price, a ballpark to pre-qualify them on budget. And then and we pre-qualify them on time frame. And then we by the end of the phone call, like we're either getting paid to come out to do a consultation with them, like they're paying us money, or we are collecting a deposit to move forward. That's on the phone call. That's before you even go to their house. Then you go to the house to measure everything, make sure that, they said the room was a 12 by 12 room, and you get out there, it's actually 20 by 15, which is going to, potentially change things. The trip out there is just to verify the information and then to get the calculations and stuff so that you can do a detailed estimate on the back end. But it's already sold is what I'm saying. So if you say you're doing that landscaping project and they go, we want this, this, and this. Cool. I can share with you what other clients of ours have paid for some of the projects. And based on that and what you've told me, we can do this project for you on the high end around 30,000 and on the low end around 20,000, depending on what selections. How does that sound? And if they say, yeah, that's in our budget, that's what we were thinking, cool. Then we go to the next step. If they say that's way more than what we thought it was going to be, okay, what was your budget? Our budget was 10,000. Yeah, we can't do that project for 10,000. I can do this, I can do half of this project for 10,000, but I can't do this project that we talked about, this scope of work. I can't do that for 10,000. And you're just having a conversation to see how you can make it work. They're interviewing you, you're interviewing them, you're building rapport. Are you the guy that they want? Do they like you? Do you like them? It's like a first date, right? And then at the end of the date, you're asking them for the second date before you even commit to anything. Before you pay for the dinner, right? Before you're paying for the dinner, you're asking them for a second date if you like them. And if they like you, they'll accept it. Like that's kind of what we're doing here. Does that make sense? The tile daddy? Yeah, John on Facebook says it truly works wonders and saves a boatload of time. It saves a like that's the best. It saves a boatload of time. If you guys don't know how much a boatload is, it's a lot. That's all I can tell you. Um, it will save like for me when I started doing this, it saved me about 15 hours a week. 15 hours a week of my time by not going out and doing free estimates for everyone. See, a lot of us will go out to the customer's house. They get a call, hey, I got a bathroom remodel. Okay, cool. We're booked out about 6 months. Is that all right? Yeah, that's fine. We can wait. Okay, I'll be out there next week. You go out there, you meet with them, you spend 2 hours, you give them all the ideas. Oh, I would do this and I would do that and I would do this. And if we do this, we can put it over here and this would be awesome. We can do this secret door and blah, blah, blah. And you give them all the ideas. Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds great, Brad. Okay, well, I'll go back and work on the estimate and I'll send it to you here the next couple days. Sounds great, man. Love. Thanks for coming out. Pleasure meeting you. Looking forward to getting your estimate. You send them the estimate 2 days later. It's $30,000, and they reply back and say, "Man, that's thanks for coming out here, but that's just way more than what we can afford. We got a couple other estimates that we're going to get." Or, "Wow, we really liked you, and that's a lot, but we got another estimate for 15,000. Like you're double the price. We just can't justify paying that much money. Thanks for your time." Right? Or you just never hear back from them. Like that's the most common three answers that we get. But we didn't vet any of it, and we just went out there and did a free estimate and wasted 3 hours of our life. All right, let me go through these questions, and then I gotta hop off here. All my side jobs, I have ordered the materials. Let's get legit, man. Go from side to full time. The easy part is bidding and doing the work. The headache is paperwork. I mean, I guess it depends on what your strengths are. Hire somebody to do the paperwork for you. Do your best, sub the rest. I mean, maybe. If everything isn't spelled out, that's when you get taken. It can be if your scope of work is not very good. Return customers are the only way. The trust is already there. It's not the only way. Return customers are not the only way. It's definitely the best way, but it's not the only way. Any advice on offering third party customer financing? I'm in year 4 of asphalt pay. Find a good one. I wouldn't go with Hearth. I wouldn't use Hearth. Find a vendor that really takes care of the client. Don't look at it like, oh, I need to provide financing to get this job. And once I get the financing, I don't give a crap on the back end and what that's like. Some of these companies are predatory companies and they'll like literally screw your customer. And you're like, oh, I made this solution work. I got this project done for them. Everybody's happy. The project's done. Meanwhile, they got 6 months to 3 years of financing hell because of the company that you recommended. That will reflect poorly on you for sure. So, um, like I'm not a big fan of Hearth, and I'm not like beating on them. They do offer a service, and it does work for some. But they actually approached me about sponsoring, about paid sponsorships, promoting their business, and I wouldn't do it. Any advice on offer? Okay, I already said that. At least with subs, you don't have to pay twice. Maybe if they do a good job. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. Greatly appreciate it. You're welcome. Just got off the phone. We can get to 50K plus or down to 30. Oh, that's great. We were thinking 30. Oh, Chris. Yeah, Chris is one of my clients. They do phenomenal outdoor living stuff in Pittsburgh. He said I just got off the phone. We can get to 50K plus or down to 30 is what he was telling his client, and they said, "Oh, great. We were thinking 30." So he pre-qualified him over the phone, and now he's ready to go and close them. What's up, Mike? Any more $10,000 projects are not even worth it. People expect a lot for that. There's definitely sweet spots. One of my clients, he is a landscaping company, and his minimum project was $60,000. That was his minimum size project that he would do with his crew was 60 grand because he just knew where he needed to be at and what his client base was. Can you itemize your estimate? Been through this shit over and over. Oh, no, I don't itemize my estimate. You can't help stupid. That's right. I have a saying that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't fix stupid. One trip turns to two for nothing. Yep. All right, cool, guys. Well, I appreciate you hanging out with me. Appreciate the comments. Do me a favor on TikTok before you leave. Double tap the screen real quick and just give me some likes. It just helps the whole algorithm thing. Hey, Rosie the Roofer. Good to see you. I'm just leaving. I don't know if you just joined. Yeah, you just joined. I'm heading out. Sorry. For those of you that are on here on TikTok and Facebook, YouTube, I'm on here every Monday, 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. I do a live. And if you want to come back and hang out with me, put it on your calendar. Every Monday, 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, I go live and here to answer questions you guys have. Appreciate you hanging out with me. If you haven't listened to the podcast, go listen to it, subscribe to it, and do me a favor after you listen, leave a review on your favorite platform. You can leave a review. And one last thing I'll say on Spotify, they just came out with a new feature that you can actually comment, like respond to the podcast like a thread, and that's cool because then I get notified and I can respond back. So if you listen to a podcast and you got a question about something in the podcast or you want to talk to me, just respond on Spotify and I can respond, have like a conversation with you there. That's a pretty cool feature that they just launched. So appreciate you guys, and I do this for free. I don't get anything out of it. I do have coaching program if you're interested in taking your business to the next level. I have a few different ones available, a sales program and a group coaching, which is my main one. I do also have a private one-on-one, but very few people qualify for that. So if you're looking for additional help in your business, then just reach out to me and I can share with you what that looks like. Appreciate you all. Thanks, Donovan. I just saw your comment. Thanks, guys. Have a great rest of your day. Talk to you soon.